Now, I recently made a film about the Anti-Female Genital Mutilation Summit that was held in Canberra, but I had so many audio problems that I abandoned it. It was rather long too, I suppose, so I might just make a few small videos about that FGM summit or subjects pertaining thereto, and I'll keep them short. I noticed that Eliza Broderick, the Federal Sex Discrimination Commissioner, was one of the distinguished colleagues, one of the distinguished ministerial colleagues attending the anti-FGM summit held in Canberra. That's according to the person who gave the opening speech, the present Federal Health Minister. Her name is Tanya Plibersek. I don't know a lot about Tanya Plibersek, whether or not she's sexist and misandrist, but I'll make a study of her and report back on that. Anyway, it turns out that Eliza Broderick was there, little Eliza Broderick, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner at the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission. She was in attendance. That makes me think of a Sex Discrimination Commissioner. She reminds me always as it's a bit like a carnivore being head of the Vegetarian Society, when you think that she behaves in a sexist and misandrist manner as Sex Discrimination Commissioner. Yes. Now, I mean, fair enough, she was there looking out for the interests of women as Sex Discrimination Commissioner, but I mean, what has she done to look out for the interests of boys and male genital integrity as Sex Discrimination Commissioner? I'd like to know. I wrote to her a couple of years ago, and she told me through one of her staff that protecting the genital integrity of little helpless baby boys was not a priority of hers. I call it a violent and barbaric sexual assault, male genital mutilation. That's what I call it, having your penis peeled like that. Yes. Now, we're not allowed to peel circumcised clitoral hoods, apparently. It's illegal in Australia. Now, Broderick was there at the Anti-FGM Summit, and that was a summit on how you're not allowed to peel or circumcise. That's to cut around. Circumcise is the cutting around of clitoral hoods, isn't it? Female circumcision is to cut around the clitoris and remove the clitoral hood, and indeed the clitoral hood has less nerve endings than the male genital hood, the foreskin. And yes, so basically Eliza Broderick is not one to defend the genital integrity of little boys. 59 years ago, when I was genitally mutilated, when I had my penis peeled with no anaesthetic, there was no one to defend me, no one to speak up for me. And even now, 59 years later, Eliza Broderick, as Sex Discrimination Commissioner, is not going to speak up for male genital integrity. She has told me it is not a priority of hers. She's got more important things to do than defend helpless little boys from a violent and barbaric sexual assault, from having their penises peeled. Now, you know when you've got a tiny piece of skin on the corner of your finger, how if you tear it the wrong way, it feels painful and sore for a couple of days? Well, it's only a tiny little piece of skin. Imagine having your whole foreskin peeled off and left to heal itself. And without anaesthetic, imagine that. Imagine this woman who won't speak up for little boys. I call that sexist and misandrist. I like to work from notes, by the way, because I find that, well, if I work from notes, I don't skip points or forget points. There were a couple of nurses present, a couple of midwives present at that anti-FGM summit. A couple of midwives were present. I wonder, as midwives here at this FGM summit, all concerned about, these midwives obviously at an anti-FGM summit don't want to see FGM done in Australia. I wonder how those midwives felt about the mutilation of little boys, the genital mutilation of little boys. I noticed one is Australia's head midwife in the government. Yes, I wonder. Yes. There have been other commissioners at the Sex Discrimination Commission's office at the Human Rights and Equal Opportunity Commission who were just as sexist and misandrist as Eliza Broderick. I call them the Clitorati because not one of them has ever spoken out against male genital mutilation. Not one, going right back to the first one. Her name was Quentin Bryce. Yes, she's now Governor General. There was Prue Goward, Moira somebody, Susan Halliday. A whole Clitorati of women were Sex Discrimination Commissioners, and not one of them, to my knowledge, spoke out against male genital mutilation. And here we have Eliza Broderick attending the anti-FGM summit. So that's very interesting. Very, very interesting. I noticed Tanya Plibersek was very culturally sensitive, pussyfooting around, not saying anything offensive to any culture at this FGM summit. I noticed that. I'll do a special video about that. And yet Prime Minister Gillard, what did she say? Something to the effect of, there is no place in any religion or culture for female genital mutilation. Well, I don't think there should be any place in any religion or culture for male genital mutilation. And of course, yes, Gillard, and a previous health minister, what was her name, Nicola Roxon. Gillard and Roxon are both supposed to be atheists, according to Wiki. But anyway, as I said in another video, Nicola Roxon actually argued against FGM. She argued against FGM, but argued in favour of MGM, male genital mutilation, on supposed medical benefits, on supposed cultural benefits, and supposed religious benefits. That's what Nicola Roxon was doing, arguing on behalf of Julia Gillard against female genital mutilation, but arguing in favour of male genital mutilation when she replied to a man, but it's, who had whose son's genital integrity was lost. Anyway, that's all I've got to say, I think, about Eliza Broderick at this moment. She was there anyway, at the summit, the Sex Discrimination Commissioner, who won't speak up to stop boys having their penises peeled. But it's okay to peel. Yes, it's okay to peel the penises of boys, but it's not okay to peel the little clitoral hoods off girls. That's wrong, apparently. You go and figure that out and tell me if you think it's sexist or not. I think it's very sexist indeed. It's very misandrist. It's very misandrist indeed.